A small pictographic image on the vast 100-foot-long wall of Meyers Spring, in the Lower Pecos region of Texas, near the Rio Grande River, has been overlooked over the years, with most viewers probably assuming it depicts an Indian warrior. However, a deeper analysis and interpretation of the details suggests that it is in fact an Indian depiction of an early Spanish conquistador, and may represent the first contact between a Spanish conquistador expedition and the Texas Humaano Plains Indians. We'll break down the aspects of the pictograph to show how they match the unique elements of the conquistador of the 1500s. Then we'll examine the backstory to determine which expedition was most likely the one this picture story was trying to depict. The first item in the image that catches the viewer's attention is the object being held in the left hand. This closely resembles the Spanish matchlock harquebus. These were common with the Spanish conquistador during their exploration of the North American Southwest. The harquebus was invented in Spain in the mid-15th century and remained in use until the late 17th century. The gun stock in the pictograph indicates this is one of the oldest designs, dating to the late 16th century. It was shorter and lighter than the early European design and fired a .57 caliber lead ball. As seen by this short clip, a soldier could fire a harquebus 3 times in 1 minute, making it a devastating weapon for Indians who had never seen a rifle. The second item in the pictograph image that stands out is the boots. The person who created this drawing took the trouble to include this detail. These loose-type boots are not what Indians wore. They wore tight leather legging-type boots or just moccasins. However, the boots in the image are of the type worn by the Spanish soldiers, as shown in the image. Additionally, the full-length outfit depicted in the pictograph was uncommon for a male Indian, especially in a war-fighting mode. However, as can be seen in the rendering, this was a typical outfit for Spanish soldiers. Although shields were a traditional item carried by certain Indian tribes, they were also a well-known defensive weapon used by conquistador cavaliers, or horsemen. Conquistador cavaliers used an adarga, a rigid leather shield created by the Moors and frequently used by conquistador soldiers in the Americas. The adarga was made in 2 pieces, similar to the pictograph depiction. The pictograph appears to represent 2 distinct types of soldiers in a single depiction. The harquebusier were the men who carried the harquebus, but the cavaliers were the ones who carried the adarga. The pictograph also shows something on top of the head. This is probably to depict the conquistador Moorian comb helmet. The object in the pictograph flares out somewhat and appears to depict the comb on top of the helmet. It could also represent feathers on top of a helmet, similar to the 1590 engraving example. This is not where the pictograph story ends, though. It continues with a horse beside the conquistador. Note that it is painted in the same pigment. The exaggerated neck indicates that this is intended to be a horse. The muzzle has been partially spalled off. At this period in the Trans-Pecos Indian homeland, the horse was probably a completely new sight and would have been worthy of being included in their picture story. A strap crosses over its back. This strap can be distinctly seen in a drawing produced by the famous pictograph researcher, Forrest Kirkland, in 1937. The strap connects the horse to a 2-wheeled wagon. This is the type that was used in Mexico from the 16th century to the present day. The ring below the horse is the connection to the wagon. The remaining lines have been weathered away. The person making the story picture could not adequately present the perspective of the wagon, so it appears as if the viewer is looking down on it, rather than from the side. In front of the wagon is the depiction of a walking friar, something common in the conquistador expeditions. And now we come to the backstory we believe reveals the inspiration of this pictograph. The Humaano people of the Lower Pecos River region, from the 15th to the 18th centuries, were mobile hunter-gatherers in the Trans-Pecos region, frequently moving and often traveling great distances. They followed and hunted the bison herds and were traders with regions far and wide from their home territory. The main Humaano home area covered the territory from the Rio Grande River, east and south of the current location of Del Rio, Texas, to the region beyond Presidio on the river to the west. Their northern border was north of the confluence of the Texas Concho and Colorado rivers, and the Pecos River to the west. Meyers Spring is situated right in the heart of their region of influence. They were mentioned by name in Spanish documents from 1583 to around 1750. The Antonio de Espejo expedition was the first actual conquistador expedition to pass through the Trans-Pecos region. In November 1582, de Espejo set out from Mexico to search for some friars who had traveled to northern New Mexico to convert the Indians there and were rumored to have been killed. When the expedition began, it included 15 soldiers and 115 horses and mules. Their initial route led them to the Rio Grande River, and from there, they followed the Rio Grande to Santa Fe. Although this route took them past southern Humaano villages along the inhabited Rio Conchos and Rio Grande rivers, it took them far west of the Trans-Pecos region and the heart of the Humaano nation. The harquebus was referenced in the Espejo journal 7 times as a means to either intimidate or engage in actual combat as they made their way north. Espejo learned that members of the Tihuesh tribe in northeastern New Mexico had killed the 2 friars. He pushed into Tihuesh territory to attack and punish them. Then he headed east until he reached the Pecos River for their return to Mexico. He and his men followed the Pecos River south and crossed into present-day Texas, where they were welcomed in the spring of 1583 by 3 Humaano Indians out hunting. They informed Espejo that the Pecos River would not take them to their destination of the Rio Conchos River and agreed to act as guides, leading them through the Trans-Pecos region and back to the Rio Grande. The Indians guided him and his men along what is now Toya Creek. Their journal stated they were welcomed at each of the camps along the way by the friendly Humaano Indians. They passed through Balmoré and Limpia Canyon, near present-day Fort Davis and Marfa, and down to the Rio Grande. The Espejo expedition is the accepted first contact between the Spanish Conquistador and Trans-Pecos Humaano Indians. The pictograph details match all the aspects of a conquistador representation, and the weapon being held matches the earliest period of the harquebus, which coincided with the conquistador exploration period in the southwestern portion of the New America. That, along with the additional depiction of the horse and wagon next to the conquistador and the walking friar, adds to this being a picture story of the first contact between European conquistador explorers and the Trans-Pecos Humaano Indians. In our research, this is the only known pictograph in Texas of this early contact of these 2 peoples, making it one of the most important images of early Texas history. The West Texas Archaeological Society was given special permission by the landowner to conduct their research on this private property. 2 organizations conduct tours of the pictograph wall with the landowner's consent. These are the Witt Museum and Rock Art Foundation in San Antonio, Texas, and the Shumla Archaeological Research Center in Comstock, Texas. We are providing their website addresses for anyone interested in viewing this site in person.